Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon for taking a look at the Volkswagen ID.4. So this was introduced in 2020 and it's part of the Volkswagen Group MEB platform, which means that this is related to the other ID vehicles like the ID Buzz, the ID.3, the ID.5, 6 and the 7, as well as the likes of the Skoda Enyaq and the Audi Q4 and Q5. So yeah, it's basically a platform for a whole bunch of different electric cars from different brand manufacturers to basically put their idea of what a car should be in terms of an electric vehicle. So yeah, and it's a very versatile platform because you know the Buzz is hardly anything like this, and the likes of the Skoda Enyaq are even bigger than this car is. So yeah, very versatile platform, and yeah, it's a very good looking vehicle I think on the whole. The ID.5, which is basically the same car as this, so is a little bit different. It's got a slightly sloping rear roof and it's a bit more efficient in terms of its drag coefficient, which makes it a more efficient electric car, but it also means it's less practical because it's a much smaller vehicle. So yeah, but on the whole I do like the look of this car. It's a little bit, I like the chunkiness that it's got going for it. Although it's got an SUV body though, this is by no means an SUV in practical terms. It's nowhere near going to be able to go off-road or deal with anything like a Range Rover or a Volvo XC90 or anything like that are going to be able to deal with, but it still looks the part. It's more of a crossover though, which is fine. Interior wise it's mostly okay. I'm not a fan of this grey steering wheel though, kind of reminds me of a Nissan Sunny if we're being honest, but the rest of the interior looks nice. Yeah, it's as simple as you might expect for a an electric car, but the lack of analog buttons is the only real concern I have with the car's interior, which yeah, I and many other people do not want to be fiddling through menus just to get to certain essential parts of the car, but still overall looks good enough inside. It's also extremely practical. Not only do you have plenty of rear leg room, as you can see, but you've also got a massive boot. It's absolutely ginormous. You can get it's up to 848 litres, and that goes well above 1,000 litres once you put the rear seats down. So an extremely practical car in that regard, but unfortunately it's let down a little bit by having no frunk, which, to be honest, the whole the whole idea of electric cars is to keep the mechanics and everything as low down as possible. Keep it out of the way, make sure you're maximising not only the passenger space but also the cargo space, and to have no frunk in an electric car is a big no-no as far as I'm concerned, because it means you've got you can have your electric charging cables either in the boot and taking up space there, or rattling around elsewhere, and it's just yeah, a bit of a poor design aspect as far as I'm concerned. But that's the only real major issue outside of the fact it weighs a lot, at 4,665 pounds, which is obviously a huge amount, and yeah, would no doubt reduce your overall range on the batteries. So yeah, this can apparently do between 209 and 275 miles, which is decent, but it's not exactly class leading by any means. But you can tow up to 2,200 pounds if you wish, if you add the tow bar. You can see they got the attachment there on the bottom, but yeah, you can attach that and you can tow up to 2,200 pounds, which is a decent amount, but it's not a huge amount at the end of the day, and that would also reduce your range on your batteries. Talking of batteries, well, we've got a 58 kilowatt hour battery linked up to a single rear wheel drive motor, which produces 201 horsepower and 228 pounds-feet of torque, which yeah, isn't a great deal by any means. Now, I'm not asking for a speed freak machine from this at all, but the fact is, good acceleration is always a bonus when out on the open road, for merging, getting out in front of traffic and whatnot, overtaking and whatnot. But this, yeah, is just not really going to be able to do much of that. Mid-range clout though is fairly decent, as you'll see when we get out onto the open road. But overall, I am impressed by this car. I would have preferred the ID Buzz to be in a game like this, especially the all-wheel drive version, which has well over 300 horsepower. But yeah, this is a fairly solid car, and it's a good start to the EV. The EV attempts from Volkswagen, because this is the first Volkswagen we've actually had that is all electric. So yeah, fairly like it for that reason. But still, let's get it out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are at the drag strip. So being only a 201 horsepower car with a lot of weight, this is by no means a quick accelerating vehicle, but it's decent enough for what it is and what it has going on for it. So let's see what it can do on this drag strip before we hit the speed camera. We'll probably get to its top speed in fact, but yeah, as you can see, it's no mind-blowing acceleration, but it's usable acceleration at the end of the day. Just would have been nice to have a little bit more to help you in everyday circumstances, because yeah, this does not get off the line particularly quickly. So there's 99.7 miles an hour, so very nearly 100, which is decent, but especially considering its weight and the lack of horsepower. But yeah, there are definitely far quicker cars in terms of electric cars out there than this, and yeah, it doesn't really gain a lot of speed quickly at all. It's quite sedate in a lot of ways, but I guess that's what a lot of people would want out of an electric car. They want the quietness, they want the ease of use, but they don't want neck snapping acceleration and whatnot like that. But there is a medium in between neck snapping acceleration and barely any acceleration at all, and this is more on that latter side than the former side. So yeah, but let's have a look at the stats before we hit the track properly. So we are actually in C class, surprisingly enough, and yeah, they are the stats. Now the handling is pretty good. The top speed is fairly okay for what this is. At the end of the day, you're not dealing with a high kilowatt hour battery pack. You're not dealing with a twin motor setup or anything. So the top speed is fairly decent in that regard. And the off-road capability is actually fairly good, despite not really being a full-blown SUV. But the braking, the launch and the acceleration leave a lot to be desired, unfortunately. But it is nice to have, a rear-wheel drive only Volkswagen. Not had one of those since, I think, the original Beetle. So yeah, that is nice enough in that regard, but it by no means is a car that is making the most of that rear-wheel drive layout. But nonetheless, let's hear what this car sounds like, and then we'll take a look at it some more. So yeah, sounds like pretty much every other electric car that we have in this game, which is probably a little bit louder than what it can do in real life, but I guess make Playground want the car to at least emit some kind of noise, so it's not just completely silent. But yeah, there's nothing there that we've not heard before. In terms of handling, it's fairly okay. There's a little bit of understeer here and there, which is kind of surprising, given I doubt there's much weight up front. But yeah, if you are going quick enough, the rear end will step out, being rear-wheel drive only and having a fair decent amount of torque. That is no surprise. So you can get it stepping out every now and then, but for the most part it sticks like glue to the road, and yeah, it is no real fuss whatsoever to drive. So yeah, not exciting or anything like that, but neither is it overly dangerous and likely to scare anyone off. But as you can see, look, you can get it sliding out if you're going fast enough. Acceleration wise, 0 to 60 is dealt with in 7.6 seconds, which again, not class leading, but there are slower electric cars out there, no doubt about that. 0 to 100 is dealt with in 26 seconds dead, and it can do 102 miles an hour, which again is not class leading at all. But that's just the case for a lot of, well, pretty much every electric car that is around this kind of power level and only has a single motor. Some even only top out at 98 or 99 miles an hour. So yeah, it's fine enough for everyday use, but it's certainly not going to rip up any tracks or anything like that. But on the whole, I do like this car. I like the way it looks. nice. I like the fact that it's easy enough to drive. It's a good cruising vehicle as well, and you know that going to be able to get plenty of power out of it if you upgrade it in certain regards. So yeah, there is all of that going for it, but yeah, it's not going to convert anyone that isn't interested in electric cars by any means. But if it gets people out of their petrol and diesel cars and into these kind of cars, you know, the kind of people that only want to just drive to A to B, then that's only a good thing. And yeah, I'm happy for that in that regard. But yeah, certainly not the best electric car that we've had on this game. But it is at least nice to have something a little bit more ordinary on here, rather than, you know, the usual hypercars from hypercars or sports saloon cars that we've had in terms of electric cars. It's nice to have something a little bit more basic. So yeah, you can get this car by getting 20 points in the festival playlist. So get out there and get it. It's well worth getting, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it in terms of racing it online. Nonetheless though, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.